Hello, this is Tara. I'm here for my second installment of my channel that is called Growing Up Crazy. This is Growing Up Crazy Part 2, and it will be subtitled Years Age 0 to 6 weeks. Now, I know most kids don't have 0 to 6 weeks as being hard years or even anything exciting, but I did, and of course I don't remember it. It was something told to me by, and so I know the story. I was born in Hollywood. At least that's what my birth certificate says. It says somewhere else, or my mom told me that I was born in what was then General Hospital and is now USC Medical Center. But my birth certificate says I was born in Hollywood, and by the address, I believe it was our family physician. That was actually my aunt's physician. My mother hid under the guise of science, Christian Science, so that we wouldn't have to go to the doctor unless our head was falling off or something. And even then, I question if we would have went. But feel backwards here. There we go. Did I say I was in the living room? Because it's cold up front. I don't remember, but that's where I am, so it's going to look different. So at 6 weeks old, my mother and I were living with my aunt in Hollywood. And from what I can remember, from when I was 3 and 4, what I can remember is a apartment or duplex that was street level. And was off Hollywood Boulevard, as far as I can remember, but I'm not sure. At 6 weeks old, my mother put me in the stroller, and I don't know why she was allowed to do that, or if my aunt wasn't home, or what was going on, but she put me in the stroller, and she strolled me up to Hollywood Boulevard, and left me on a street corner in my stroller on the corner of Hollywood and Vine. So she went all out. That's like the best street corner. Everybody knows Hollywood and Vine. So there I sat. The only reason they found out where I lived at 6 weeks old, being in the living room does have its downside. The husband sits here and coughs because I told him not to talk, but he's bound and determined. Don't say nothing. You gotta love them. Anyways, I was talking about when I was 6 weeks old. So anyways, corner of Hollywood and Vine, and mom's gone. Of course, like I said, I don't remember this. The only reason I didn't get put into the system where I could have been adopted out to like a normal family or a normaler family, or God knows, maybe worse, so I'll just take what I got and not say shoulda, woulda, coulda. She left her purse with me. Her whole purse, everything. Fortunately, she had an up-to-date ID, and they sent a police car, apparently, to their house, to our house. And that police car went in and had my mother's ID and knocked on the door. And my aunt, whose name I almost used, my aunt opened the door. Of course, they're all gone, but still. My aunt opened the door, and they grabbed her, apparently, because my mother and my aunt look exactly alike, and they talk. Their voices are so similar. I did get to talk to my aunt once, and I'll explain why I didn't talk to my aunt for a whole, practically ever. But she did call me when I was at my other aunt's house, and she sounded just like my mom. As a matter of fact, I said, "Hi, Mom," and she hung up. I was like, what the heck? But so that apparently got straightened out after she presented her own ID that, matched, except they could then tell the difference between the two women. And I actually know what happened to get me back there. I don't know if she had to go get me somewhere or they've just had me there. I don't know. Back then things were much different. I know at this day and age, a child would probably be in foster care for a long time while the authorities checked out the house. That house, fortunately, was, as I remember from being older, was really nice. And there'll be more about where we ended up around that time before I went to stay with my mother permanently. So, backlashes. Backlashes for me, I like I said, I was 6 weeks. Nobody told me what happened to me. However, when they did find Mom, and I don't know where they found her, probably the closest bar to Hollywood and Vine. And I can't think, I think Musso and Frank's is around there somewhere. But she only drank when she was having one of her sickness spells. That's what I called them. She got sick. And the reason I say that is because it was a pattern throughout my life, her life. She would go about 6 months, and then she'd get sick. And she had this pattern, and it would start off with her not sleeping. To this day, I cannot stand to sleep with a light under the door because it scares me. Because it always meant my mother is awake and is around, and she could come bursting through that door any minute to make sure I was breathing. And I usually was, but sometimes my heart stopped beating for a few minutes because she didn't know anything about being quiet indoors. She would just burst the door open, it would slam and hit the wall, and I'd be sitting straight up. So I got used to waking up during the night and checking to see if there was a light. If it was dark, we're good to go. If there was a light on, we're screwed. So she drank only when she was sick. Oh, I was telling you about the part. So that part would come, then she would start denying herself her favorite things, coffee and donuts, which she absolutely lived on, things like that. And then pretty soon she'd get to the point, there would be a point of abuse towards me. Much was verbal, some was physical, but by the time I was 12, I was full grown, and I was 5'8" until I aged a little, and some of it went away. But my mom was 5'0". So it was pretty funny to see her try to abuse me. The only time was if we were face-to-face sitting down. My mother was very stealthy, and she would haul off and smack me across the face really quickly, and I didn't even know what for. Might have been something I did a week ago. As long as, that was the first time she'd get me then, and it was scary. So then she would sometimes bring men home, which I would scare off for the most part. And then the end game was her running away. If she got that far, sometimes she would have an automobile accident because she was still driving. That woman in the state of California at that time, they would renew your driver's license until, they would still be sending her driver's licenses if we didn't tell them she was dead. So, we live in Oregon, and my husband just pointed to the door and said, rain, and I'm the crazy one. So anyways, sometimes she would have fights in a bar. Her favorite activity was to start a fight and then walk out laughing. And of course, when the police came, they'd give a description. My mother was very distinctive looking because she wore polka dots and plaids together, thought it looked great, and her favorite color was red. So she was like red all up and down the street. So she had that pattern. And so if she ran away, if it was possible for me to go stay with at my grandma's house with 2 other aunts and an uncle, then I'd do that. If it was summer, I would go stay with my aunt in San Pedro, which I really loved doing because She had it all together. She had a very nice home. My uncle was my father figure. He was the greatest guy in the whole world. He walked on I don't know what that saying is. He walked on clouds. He walked on water. That's what it is. He just was nurturing for a man. He was a very he was an old crusty sea captain, and he would be crusty but be very tender and nice to me. So I enjoyed that. Men in my life proved over and over they couldn't be trusted, except him and my other uncle. But he drank a lot, so yeah, there you go. So anyways, my mother was found, taken to, at the time, General Hospital. I know it was General Hospital this time. It wasn't someplace else. And she spent locked up in General Hospital's lockup unit for, I want to say 3 years, where she was given shock treatments, and she was given, she was beaten up by nurses. Like I said, she was very small, and she was a tiger. I mean, she could go in there and fight with the best of them, but when you're in a straitjacket and you've got 2 or 3 nurses beating on you, I mean, she got very beaten up quite a bit. So that is the story between 0 and 6 weeks. I just need to tell you that I will be coming in with some off the subject, not off the subject, but on the subject, but some kind of little things, like I just had to tell you why the light under the doorway bothers me. I can never be without the TV. The TV is on right now. When we get up in the morning, the TV goes on. When we go home at night, go to bed at night, this one goes off, that one comes on. Never without noise, because when I was a kid, that's how I ignored as much as I could what was going on outside. If I didn't have a TV, I had a stereo, and I would put music on. And that, you know, I know I had to listen for doors opening and closing, because sometimes my mom would just leave and leave the door wide open. You had to be cognizant of that. Anyways, as I think of things like that and I think they're important to go along with, to kind of hold the story or explain the story, then I will do that. If you're so kind as to subscribe so you continue getting the stories of growing up crazy, I would appreciate it. If you like this video, that would be helping me out. And I just want as many people as possible to see this and maybe pass it on to somebody or someone who could benefit for many reasons. So I am going to go now, because Dr. Phil's almost on. And I will be talking to you soon. You have a good day. Everybody stay safe, stay sane. If not, enjoy the Prozac.